Usually my team is here to tell me to hit record, and we'll just keep going. Guys, nothing like 10 minutes late. I am Dr. Jason Bradley. Today is Wednesday, September 16th, and this is Wellness Wednesday with yours truly. And I am super excited about today's Wellness Wednesday. It actually started, let me see if I can position this camera a little bit better. Hold on, maybe I'll go here. This is great. Okay. This episode actually started, I was reminded by one of my health coaches about a year ago. And I'm so excited to talk to you about the most boring topic in the world, which is boron. I mean, I don't think there's anything less exciting or less sexy to talk about than the trace element boron that we don't even have a lot of in our body. But I'm so excited to share this with you, just because, again, I had a few dots connect yesterday. And so I'm going to share some, just kind of the way the clinician scientist, at least me being the clinician scientist, the way my brain kind of thinks through cases and the way that we can help people. And then the accidental findings that we come up with, like looking at something from one point of view, dive into the literature, dive into the research, and then what comes out on the other end. I will tell you that what came out on the other end not only supported my hypothesis, which I'm going to just dangle that carrot, specifically about how boron may be related to not only hormonal balance, but the inflammatory cascade, as well as immune system regulation. So I'm so excited about this because the research that I came up with yesterday that I was able to find not only substantiated all of that, but actually made it even better than I thought it was. So usually I have to dig to like prove my point, if that makes any sense, because nutritional medicine, a lot of our studies aren't really funded, by big pharma, right? So we don't have $20 million pouring into a research project to prove that we have a patentable chemical that, can be sold as a drug for many thousands of dollars a month, right? So people doing boron studies, I mean, I don't even know how they get their funding. There might be like a half a dozen to a dozen of them out there, so there's not hundreds. So it takes a long time to dig into the obscure literature to find out, usually what these PhD students and their professors are looking at for research projects. And then those end up on PLOS One, Public Library of Science, and then some of those end up getting published, right? But they all go through the peer review process, and I'm excited to get to kind of lead you down that road. However, I also wanted to give you guys a personal update. Boy, it has been a heck of a week. I know it's only Wednesday, but it feels like it's been since last Wednesday, 2 Wednesdays, and 2 weekends, and not necessarily in the most, I would say, obviously positive way in my personal life. And I like to share with you guys a little bit about what's going on with me in my personal life on these episodes if it's relevant, and I think that it is. So as you guys know, I have to go back in time. A couple weeks ago, so not this week, not last week, but the week before, into the week before, my dad had a stroke. And, my dad has suffered from, has dealt with, I don't know if suffered's the right word, but has dealt with diabetes, cardiometabolic syndrome, being overweight, hypertension, all of those pieces that really plague modern America that are essentially diseases of having too much, right? I mean, everything that I just listed, cardiometabolic disease, cardiac disease, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, diabetes, type 2 diabetes anyway, are all a product of living in an abundant first world. The only real people that develop those that are outside of genetics, which even those are, less than 2% of the time, are folks that really did not pay attention to their well-being, to their health throughout their lifetime. And they wind up with the diseases of aging. And what we're finding out more and more is that aging is actually more of a process of choice, as a process of genetics, as a process of just, programmed cell, death, or apoptosis, as we call it in cellular chemistry. It's spelled apoptosis, apoptosis, if you want to look that up. But apoptosis is programmed cell death. Our cells can only live so long, but our cells with humans are not aging at the rate that they should. They're aging a lot more quickly. And what we found out is that that advanced cellular aging is really due to first world living, right? Eating all the wrong foods that are box, can, wrap, packaged, processed for convenience, right? That we're not drinking enough water because we have enough other beverages, right? So we're not drinking, as an example, enough water because we have too many other beverages available to us. That is not my coffee, but it's sitting at my table. This is, however, my water. I love this flask. If you haven't seen it, my friend, mentor, brother, and armchair psychologist Alex Sharpin sent this to me as a gift, and it says, water equals hydration equals momentum. And I would write at the bottom, if I was going to say that, I would say equals contribution or equals impact, right? Because that's ultimately why we want momentum, right? To have the best impact on the planet that we can, to help as many people, to love and serve in this lifetime that I'm honored to give back to this world, right? So nonetheless, I wanted to walk you through that. I wanted to let you know that down here with my dad, sorry, my dad had a stroke a couple weeks ago. I forgot what we were talking about, neglect. And that's why we developed the Epic 5 plan, right? Our Epic 5 plan has laid down a systematic foundation that really anybody can do at this point, that helps people rehydrate their bodies, eat the right foods, move every single day in the right way for their bodies, have a stress management plan that we have in effect every single day, and then really work on sleep rhythm, sleep hygiene, et cetera. When we work on those 5 pillars, the Epic 5 plan, when we do that, we see, as you guys know, that are my clients, that have been my clients or talk to my clients, we get phenomenal outcomes. In fact, our outcomes are, and I mean this, in almost I'm in awe of what I'm about to say, mostly because it's so cool and it's so awesome. It would be awesome if anybody said it, but the fact that I can say it about our plan that we created over the last 2 decades, it almost brings tears to my eyes. But I know that what we've created with the Epic 5 plan, because I have outcome studies with labs with autoimmune disease, cardiometabolic disease, cognitive decline, Alzheimer's, and other senilities, certainly metabolic diseases, GI diseases, thyroid diseases, hormonal imbalances, PMS, PMDD. I mean, depression, anxiety, other affective issues, libido issues. I mean, the list goes on and on. You know, weight loss resistance. I can continue to go. We have thousands at this point of data outcomes showing that our Epic 5 plan corrects all of it for almost everybody, about 95% of the time. And that what our clients need to do and what they do is they dig into their personalized plan with their coach, and we're able to see that. Well, my father didn't have that structure, right? Which is why Rachel and I, my wife, my better half in all ways, Rachel, I know you guys know I mentioned her a lot. Rachel and I really are trying to reach a younger and younger crowd, but it's really hard to say, we've got the coolest plan for you to drink more water and eat healthy food and move the right way. I mean, nobody's interested in that, right? So we're trying to figure out how to make that, I'm going to say the word that we use, how to make it sexy, so that people want to know what it is that we're doing. And at the same time, you know, have people not only of really young ages, but of any age to start implementing it. Because the other thing that we found is, yeah, it'd be cool if we could have young people do it, because I think we could start preventing chronic disease onset. But what we found is folks with chronic diseases that we just mentioned, or chronic illnesses or struggles with their health, we see a turnaround with that stuff. So I think our outcome speaks for itself, and really what we're leaning into is helping. But my dad didn't have that structure, and I wish that he did. So he had a stroke a couple of weeks ago, which thank God he's recovering from. I was really worried the first couple of days. He couldn't talk at all, and it was really hard watching the man that instilled the values of love and service to me and to the family, not even being able to talk and just making guttural sounds, trying to force air through his vocal cords. I mean, it hit me so hard. I'm still not over it. And, you know, my parents are almost 90, just to remind everybody. They're not spring chickens. They've had a good life. They've worked hard. They've had good impact on this planet. I'm very honored to be their kid. I'm happy. Anyway, I'll get there in a minute. But my mom has been my father's caregiver. And my mom is, you know, 88 going on, I'm making a joke here, but 48, you know, I mean, she is a spitfire. I mean, 3 weeks ago, I think after the storm, she was out in their yard, you know, with a saw, a hand saw, not a chainsaw, hacking away at limbs and branches and stacking them up, you know, out by the street for the city to come and take, or whatever, you know, whatever was going on, the tree people. I mean, she is a spitfire at 88. I do not want you guys to get the wrong idea. My father, of course, prior to the stroke, is a brain cancer, a terminal brain cancer survivor. did not recover, survivor that's had his own issues. But my mom is his caregiver and has been his caregiver for 7 years, since the brain surgery, since kind of that part of their life fell apart. So here they are hitting their 80s. My dad's health completely falls apart. My mom becomes his caregiver. Their old age is not what they thought. A lot of that is due to, and God bless him, my dad didn't do everything that he could to take care of himself. Even more of a motivation for all of us to dig in and take care of ourselves and do what we need to do so we don't have old age like that. But yesterday, my mother wound up in the ER for a completely unrelated, nothing to do with my dad's stroke. Probably a little bit because she's overdoing it a little bit. But she ended up having a pretty bad injury and she wound up in the ER. They got her all patched up, and whatever needs to be done there. But she's home and she's on bed rest right now. She can't put any weight on her leg. Full disclosure, last night and this morning, my mom was up this morning without her walker. And I'm like, what are you doing here? So Rachel and I drove down here to hang out with my folks for the rest of the week and just kind of get them, no pun intended, but back on their feet, make sure that they're okay. And I don't know what the weekend holds for us, but I know that we have to go back to our home on Friday because we have a massive team meeting this week and we just have to be there for it. So I think that one of my siblings will probably take over for the weekend if they need it. But anyway, thank you guys for giving me just a little laterality. I got started late today, about 5 minutes later than I suspected. I usually start about 12:05, try to log in at 12, get started at 12:05, get started at 12:10 because I'm on this new network and I'm at my parents' house. Luckily, the weather is beautiful. I'm sitting outside. I mean, it couldn't be nicer. I've got the trees behind me. I don't know, it's pretty nice here. So nonetheless, that's where we are today. So jumping into boron, I'm going to be sharing my screen, but for those of you that are catching the audio on this that don't have, I will reference what I'm sharing. And again, I don't know how when they turn this into a podcast, I don't know what happens to the audio, but if we can attach some document to this, we will. And if not, I'll make sure that on our podcast episode site on our website, I'll make sure that if there's any downloads that you guys can go there and get those, or any links, I'll make sure that they're there. So, oops, that's not what I wanted. Let me try that one more time. Cool. I'm going to try to share my screen, and this is my favorite part of this share. Great. So I'm actually sharing my screen there for just a minute, which was me talking. So I was sharing the screen that you guys are watching that's feeding back to Facebook, which was the tab that was open. So here we go. So again, there it was. That's just kind of fun for us to watch. For those of us joining live, watch us on another live feed. But anyway, I wanted to, again, just kind of let you guys know the order of events here. So we do a great job with Epic with our patients. We have great outcomes. And I would say that, almost everyone that comes to see us has a common complaint. Not everybody, but almost everybody. I would say 90% of the people that gravitate to us, one of their symptoms is, I can't lose weight, right? And it's a pretty common symptom in America, 71.6. Somewhere between 70 and 75% of the American population is either obese or overweight. We know that obesity is about 40% of the population. There's an argument that it's between 30 and 35% of population is overweight. So this is a topic that hits home. A lot of folks that have autoimmunities, thyroid disorders, adrenal disorders, hormonal imbalances, et cetera, have weight issues because it's a byproduct. Like the weight isn't the disease, right? Obesity is not the disease. It's caused by something. And our job is to figure out what's causing the weight loss resistance, right? So we're pretty good at figuring that out. And I would say that, and I actually have this number, 97% of the time we have good success. Let me explain what good success means. 97% of the time, when we sort out, again, how much water somebody should be, drinking, what their diet should look like for them, removing, any foods that are off the Epic 5 plan, but then also their specific foods that they're sensitive to. So carving out a very tailored diet to their unique genetic, biological, immunological, and metabolic needs. When we get them moving in the right way every single day, doing some HIIT, doing some strength training, doing some flexibility training every single week. When we start working on daily stress, we know that stress leads to weight loss resistance. This is because stress chemistry in our body decreases the body's ability to utilize insulin. Insulin is the hormone that we use to drive fuel into our cell. Sugars and other calories into our cells for fuel. if we can't use those calories correctly, we will store those calories as fat. So stress decreases metabolism, which increases body fat. So again, stress reduction. Sleep patterning, we know that people that don't sleep well carry more weight than those that do sleep well. We haven't fully figured out why, but we know that. So we have, our clients working on that. And, when we get in and start balancing from an internal medicine, functional medicine point of view, start, lighting a fire on their metabolic burners or getting their hormones balanced or increasing thyroid function or whatever else we're doing from a functional medicine, internal medicine point of view, 97% of the time people lose weight. It's that simple. Now, and again, I want you guys to know that if they're following our advice. Of course, we have clients that struggle with following advice like dietary changes. That's normal. And that's because we are inundated everywhere we go with bad dietary options. We are sold bad dietary choices everywhere you turn, from billboards to magazines to television to grocery store aisles. It's everywhere you look. It's what can we sell, Sally and Jimmy, that's box, can, wrap, package, process. What can we load it with salt and sugar so that we get addicted to it? And we just want more and more and more. We have food scientists that create novel chemicals that are highly addictive, that they get passed by the FDA and included in those box, can, wrap, package, processed foods that we become addicted to, that we want more and more of. So again, it's not like I want you to change your diet. It's like changing a shirt. Hey, you look good in a blue shirt, but blue's making you sick. Let's not wear a blue shirt anymore. People would probably do that if they understood the science. But when I say, hey, the way you're eating is making you sick, when you change the way you're eating, it's not as simple as changing your shirt. There's a lot of addiction. There's a lot of societal pressure. There's a lot of marketing. There's a lot of between your ear space that we need to work on. And again, that's where sometimes we have a struggle. But when we have someone following our advice and doing what we're saying and we're seeing their changes, we see people lose weight, and they typically gravitate toward a very healthy and optimum body weight, BMI, body fat percentage, lean body mass percentage, et cetera, which is pretty awesome. 3% of the time, though, we don't actually see that happen. 3% of the time, when we, despite the fact that someone's following our perfect advice and doing X, Y, and Z and taking these medicines or doing these, bioidentical hormones or thyroid glandulars or, whatever else, they're exercising the right way, whatever they're doing, it's still not working. Typically with those patients, we still see some weight loss, but it kind of balances out a little above. As an example, I'm totally making this up. Let's say we had a female patient come in and she, baseline weighs in at like 185. And let's say we all agree in a perfect world, waving a magic wand with a good lean body mass, her BMI being about, 21 points, and again, these are all loose readings, that maybe she'd be at around 135 pounds. So we got 50 pounds to lose, right? And here she is, she's leaning into it, week one's going well, month one's going well, we're losing. And then pretty soon, in 3% of the cases, in a situation like this, maybe we get down to 155 or 150 and it just flatlines. It doesn't go anywhere. It doesn't go up, it doesn't go down. They start leaning into it a little bit more. They cut calories a little bit more, increase exercise a little bit more, and still nothing happens, right? And, the question then becomes, is this okay? If the rest of their labs look okay, if their hormones are balanced and the inflammatory markers are down and autoimmunity is in remission and, whatever it is, and they just happen to weigh 10, 15 pounds more than the perfect BMI, a lot of times we don't worry about it, right? I mean, if the patient's comfortable, and feeling good and their symptoms are down and their labs look good, then, I think that's a fine and respectable place to be. Some people get really bent on, but I really want my BMI to be low, or sometimes their symptoms are better, their weight's not down, but when we look at their labs, some things are better. Hormones might be balanced, thyroid might look good, et cetera, but there's still an undercurrent of inflammation, or maybe autoimmunity is positive, or maybe everything's looking good, but we can't pull their estrogen down if that's what's causing their weight loss resistance, as an example. And so in those situations, one of the, and it seems like we're doing everything, one of the go-to chemicals that we look at in the body, if we haven't already looked at it, is something called sex hormone binding globulin, SHBG. SHBG is a binding globulin. Let's talk about what that means. The globulin is just a protein. It doesn't mean anything. It's just a chemical with protein, and it's it binds, it grabs a hold of the sex hormones, things that you've heard of before, like progesterone, testosterone, estrogen. There are other hormones too, like DHEA, DHT, and actually sex hormone binding globulin also grabs a hold of thyroid hormone, and probably some of the adrenal hormones as well. It's not unique to only grab a hold of sex hormones. So basically what it does is it grabs a hold of or binds those hormones, and it doesn't allow those hormones to be used by the body. So as an example, we might run a hormone chemistry on somebody, a thyroid chemistry, whatever it is, and things look great. Things look really, really good. And we can't figure out why the body isn't responding to what looks like a really healthy hormone pattern, you know, that should be a highly efficient energy producing fat burning machine. Sometimes the hormones look good, but when we run the SHBG, the binding globulin, it's super high, right? And in those super high binding globulins, we can have all the perfect hormones in the world and our body can't use it. What happens is the hormones are bound, they're brought down to the liver, they're put through the hepatic portal system, the liver system, and they're put into the feces, and we just eliminate those good usable hormones that were bound into our feces. We just lose them. So our body's doing a lot of work and we're not getting the response, right? So there's a lot of theory about why sex hormone binding globulin is higher in some people and lower in others, and seems to be modulated well in others and not in others. And some of that's probably genetics. But as we're learning more and more about genetics, the one thing that I can tell you is that almost every genetic glitch, we call those polymorphisms, or single nucleotide polymorphisms, or SNPs or SNPs. You might hear all of those words, right? But these genetic glitches, there might be someone with a genetic glitch that just makes too much SHBG, right? I mean, that's a possibility. And what we're finding with genetic glitches is that almost always there's a workaround. So I've had it in my head that when someone's, you know, really taking care of their hydration and diet and movement, stress management, sleep patterning, we've got the internal chemistry. I mean, we're hitting all, you know, we're hitting nutrition. We've got the hormones where we want to be, but we're not losing weight and we have a high SHBG. In my head, I've always said there's got to be something that we're not doing to modulate those genetics. There's got to be something driving up that SHBG. If, again, there's lots of things that do. Bad diet will drive that up, inactivity will drive that up. You know, being exposed to pesticides and petrochemicals that are high in xenoestrogens will drive that up. You know, eating our way into cardiometabolic syndrome, insulin resistance will drive up SHBG. Again, there's a million reasons, but what I'm trying to get at, there are cases where none of that's what's going on. And these are the cases that I'm super interested in, this 3% of the people that seem to be doing everything that we know in the literature to be doing to lower SHBG, but we still find high sex hormone binding globulins. And for the last year plus, I've been researching what can we do to lower sex hormone binding globulin. I think it's a very important question, you know, and I'm really curious about it. So in the literature, it's been pretty clear that there are a few things that we know that work to lower sex hormone binding globulin, and therefore free up our hormones, not just sex hormones, but, you know, all of our hormones, thyroid, adrenal, testosterone, progesterone, DHEA, DHT, all of those hormones that are energy producing, fat burning, right? Metabolism supporting hormones. We know we can influence those hormones and lower SHBG and increase those hormones availability in our body by doing a few basic things. And again, I've already told you what they are, but I'm gonna tell you again in a list. Number one, we can eat a low glycemic load diet. What does that mean? It means a diet that is, I mean, primarily green vegetables with healthy fats, healthy proteins. Berries are gonna be our sweet. We're gonna be eating low sugar fermented foods like sauerkraut and kimchi. We're gonna have at least 50 grams of fiber and drinking a ton of water. I'll go through that again. We wanna eat mostly green vegetables, right? So vegetables, heavy in vegetables. Healthy proteins, healthy fats, you know, fish, poultry, that are wild, that are grass-fed and finished, beef that's grass-fed and finished. Berries are going to be our sweet. So if it has the word berry in it, It's going to probably be lower in sugar than other fruits and higher in fiber than other fruits, and also have some good chemicals like polyphenols and antioxidants and different vitamins. And also berries with seeds on the outside, raspberries, blackberries, etc., have diindolylmethane, indole carbinol that help balance our hormones. We're going to have fermented foods, like I said. We're going to eat lots of fiber, at least 50 grams a day. You're going to need to track that. And at least, depending on if you're male or female, about a gallon of water a day, give or take a little bit, whether you're female a little bit less and male a little bit more, right? That's the Epic 5-plan diet. I mean, of course, there's shopping lists and things that we can look at, but that diet lowers SHBG and increases those hormones, those useful hormones. My clients are very familiar with that, and we personalize that based on, again, on food sensitivities and metabolic needs and other things in their diet, right? Nutritional needs, etc. The second thing that we know is it's kind of a subset of what we just said, but hey, let's eat cruciferous vegetables, right? So broccoli, cauliflower, cabbage, Brussels sprouts, kale, arugula, mustard greens, radishes. I mean, there's a ton of cruciferous vegetables that are out there, brassica family vegetables. And essentially those vegetables tend to be higher in different phytonutrients, plant nutrients. So we call those the green chemicals, right? Certainly higher in fiber, but then also we're going to get, again, diindolylmethane, indole carbinols that are, and also glutathione that are going to be necessary for detoxification, hormone balance, etc. Right? So again, first thing, a diet that we talked about, the Epic 5-plan diet. The second thing, specifically, get a lot of cruciferous vegetables in, right? The third thing that we know that helps with lowering SHBG, sex hormone binding globulin, is and increasing our give energy, burn fat hormones, is going to be to move every day, right? So my clients already know, let's get out and move for 30 minutes each and every day. We already know that, right? So they're doing it. If you can do more, do more. It does. If your job is I move all day at my job, this is 30 more minutes than your job. This is not work moving. This is you moving for you. And on that note, high intensity interval training sessions hit, 4 minutes a day is actually all it takes, but 5 minutes with a warm up and a cool down, right? 5 minutes a day, high intensity interval training session, weight training, increasing muscle mass. All of that is going to do what we want: lower the SHBG, lower our body fat, percentage, and increase our fat burning, energy producing hormones. But again, those are the things that our clients are already doing, and 3% of the time it's not enough. So routinely, I start diving into what else can we do. And we don't, like I said, we don't get a lot of these cases. So I don't have an opportunity to spend my nose in a book 24/7 anyway, but let alone for the few cases that we have. I do everything I can to figure it out, but mostly we keep landing back on what I just said. Until I came across an obscure publication yesterday morning I'm embarrassed to say, from 2010. I've had a decade to find this myself with active research, and I haven't found it. Here it is. It's in the Journal of Trace Elements in Medicine and Biology. Oh, from 2011, not 2010, sorry, 2011, January 2011, Journal of Trace Elements of Medicine and Biology. Here's the title: Comparative Effects of Daily and Weekly Boron Supplementation on Plasma Steroid Hormones and Pro-Inflammatory Cytokines. Now, let me explain what this is saying. It's just saying, I wonder what happens if we take a bunch of people with some known hormone imbalances and some inflammation, and we give them boron. What happens? This sounds like someone's PhD research. It's in an obscure journal. It's not JAMA or New England Journal, right? But it got published, peer reviewed, which is pretty cool. And I just want to walk you guys through what they did. So it says, first of all, a supplementation is acute supplementation. It's only 11.6 milligrams of boron. That's a really small amount. Most boron medicines that are available come in 2, 3, and 6 milligrams. So, and they're meant to be taken at least twice a day. So this is just kind of like an average dose of the big prescription, right? So 2 6 milligram capsules a day. This is not, and actually there's some liquids, I think it's a half a teaspoon of ionic liquid a day. It's not even that much, 12 milligrams. And what they did is they gave it to these people after breakfast. And what they did is they would have them they took a boron, they took readings of sex hormone binding globulin, SHBG, high sensitivity C-reactive protein, an inflammatory marker. Here's an interesting one: tumor necrosis factor alpha, TNF alpha, which is a cancer marker. They also looked at dihydrotestosterone, DHT, testosterone, cortisol, hormones, and vitamin D, right? So they got some baseline. They gave everybody, well, not everybody, they gave some of the people 11.6, I'm going to say 12 milligrams, 12 milligrams of boron every day after breakfast. And then some people didn't get it, right? Some people took it daily, some people took it weekly, and these were the different legs that they had, right? But ultimately, this is what they found. I love this. It says it resulted in significant increase of plasma boron concentration. So we know that the boron they gave orally got into the blood. That's cool. And then this is cool. It has fast bioavailability, meaning that, and you'll see here a little bit in the article later, that even within 6 hours of taking a small amount of boron, we saw significant changes. So again, given such a fast bioavailability, we didn't know if we should be giving this hourly, should we be giving it daily, should we be giving it weekly, and we're going to figure it out, right? So at any rate, they figured out that ultimately they're going to go, they gave the boron, and then they looked at these levels every 2 hours. So they took a baseline level every day, and then they looked at 2 hours, 4 hours, and 6 hours after the boron implementation at breakfast time, right? So they were able to look at that. And what they found out was a daily supplementation with 11.6 milligrams of boron resulted in, and I think this is crazy, look at this, 6 hours of supplementation, 6 hours after supplementation, every single day, showed a significant decrease on sex hormone binding globulin, SHBG. 6 hours after taking it, we see a reduction in SHBG. We also see a reduction in a high sensitivity C-reactive protein, HSCRP, inflammatory marker. We also see a reduction in tumor necrosis factor alpha, TNF alpha. We also see an increase in, this is what's interesting, in free testosterone. We also see free estrogen decreasing. That's good because estrogen in excess leads to cancer, guys, strokes, heart attacks. We don't want excess estrogen. Estrogen is bad. Any doctor that's still prescribing estrogen replacement therapy for women needs to go back to school and stop killing people. So if you're on estrogen and you're my client, you better let me know and we'll talk about options because we don't want to be on estrogen replacement therapy. That's bad mojo. Doctors still prescribe it. Even worse, female doctors still prescribe it. And we say things like, do you remember the Women's Health Initiative where too many women were dying that the government pulled funding for estrogen replacement therapy? And they will literally say things like, oh, I heard that those studies are actually safe. Who'd you hear that from? Oh, a drug rep that's selling HRT, right? So again, guys, be careful. So again, boron, increased free testosterone, decreased estrogen, increased DHT, cortisol, and vitamin D, which is pretty cool. All three inflammatory biomarkers decreased with supplementation. We saw decreased pro-inflammatory cytokines. Do you guys remember the cytokine storm they were talking about with COVID? Boron decreases cytokines. So now we're like, holy cow, what's going on with immunology? This is not just a boron decreases SHBG and does something with our hormones. Boron, even in a small amount, seems to be related to a complete restructuring of our endocrine tree, of our inflammatory immunological tree, a really small amount, which gets my head thinking we must all be boron deficient. Just like we're all iodine deficient. You know how we iodize everything? There's iodized salts. We enrich, flours and grains and foods. Enrichment means that we processed it so much that we had to add synthetic vitamins, minerals, add iodine to the mix just so the food has some nutritional value. Just realize that when you're eating enriched foods, you're eating junk. If it has the word enriched in it, please throw it out. That's where it belongs. It belongs in the trash. But nonetheless, guys, I'm thinking that we have a gross boron deficiency. And I've started running, as of yesterday, boron levels on my clients. And as of yesterday, I took my handful of clients, my 3% of my cases, my 6 to 8 clients that are having weight loss resistance despite everything else. and I put them on boron, even without doing SHBG studies. I just put them on it, and we're going to see what happens. I'm super excited, super excited. Now, nonetheless, this brought me to some other thinking. And I started looking at, what else is out there about boron. And I found this great article from a few years later in 2015. Again, there's not a lot of articles on this. And this is actually not even an English article or an English journal. This is Integrative Medicine, and it's not a U.S. journal, but is what I meant, sorry. But this is what was pretty cool. So a few years later, someone else, who knows who, another, I don't even know who this person is, a master's degree person. Oh, Lara Pizzorno. I do know who Lara Pizzorno is. That's Joe Pizzorno's either daughter or wife. Joe Pizzorno is the chancellor. He might have just stepped down, but Joe Pizzorno is I think the immediate past chancellor of Bastyr Medical School on the West Coast. And I do believe that Pizzorno may right now be the chair of the Institute for Functional Medicine. Very important family, the Pizzornos. So kind of an interesting here. This person's not a doctor, but she's probably a research assistant type person. And again, Lara came up with 9 or 10 or 11 things about, we know it's important for the growth and maintenance of bone. So I know we talk about calcium and osteoporosis all the time, but if you actually look at the research on osteoporosis, it's not about calcium. It's about calcium combined with vitamin D, combined with boron and strontium, right? We also know that osteoporosis is an inflammatory disease and not a disease of too little calcium. Calcium is leached from the bones into the bloodstream to offset the inflammation. We have to put out the fire before we stop leaching the calcium. That's why calcium therapeutics don't work. Even if you look at other drugs like Fosamax for bone hardening drugs, Fosamax is recommended to be taken with, wait for it, calcium, strontium, boron, and vitamin D. We don't even know if the drug works. And boron is interesting because I've always thought that it was a remineralization, helping the body lay down a bony matrix. But now I think it's an anti-inflammatory and modulating the immune system is what I think is going on out of a boron deficiency. So nonetheless, it's essential for bone growth and maintenance and reparation of osteoporosis, osteopenia. Number 2, it greatly improves wound healing. We know that from hospital settings. We have topical silvers, topical borons, internal silvers, internal borons that we can use for wound healing, especially in burns. We know, again, from the article that we just read, that it impacts the body's use of estrogen, testosterone, vitamin D. I didn't know this, but it boosts magnesium absorption. That's interesting. Again, from the article we just looked at, reduces inflammatory biomarkers like HSCRP and tumor necrosis factor, right? Alpha. We know that it raises antioxidant levels, right? Which is interesting. It looks like it does something with digestion and upregulation of nutrients because we're seeing that magnesium there as well. We know that it increases superoxide dismutase, catalase, and glutathione peroxidase. My patients are very aware of this pathway because we load with liposomal glutathione all the time to impact our detoxification pathways, energy pathways, and cellular repair pathways. It protects against pesticide-induced oxidative stress and heavy metal toxicities. I didn't know that, and I run labs on that all day long. So now I have another tool in my toolbox for folks that have glyphosate toxicities or heavy metal toxicities. This is awesome. Helps with cognitive performance and short-term memory issues. I didn't know that. That's pretty cool. Again, biomolecules like acetylmethionine and the nicotinamide NAD+. Again, looking at that glutathione pathway, methylation pathways, and detoxification pathways. We see that it's demonstrated preventive effects for cancers, prostate, cervical, lung cancers, lymphomas, and also ameliorate the adverse effects of chemotherapies. I mean, this list goes on and on and on. Guys, and it's 12 milligrams of boron. I mean, I don't know what the price on this is, but I looked at it. I did look at it for my clients yesterday, and the most expensive boron that I could find, think about what we get out of it, right? The most expensive I could find was $1.08 a day. The most expensive I could find. I know, I actually found one that was cheaper that I think is running about 60 cents a day. And if we think about what we're doing, especially if you start putting yourself in the realm of, man, I've got osteoporosis, osteopenia. I've got inflammation. I've got an autoimmunity. I am low in my testosterone, DHEA, progesterone, et cetera. I do have weight loss resistance, all of those pieces. I mean, what an amazing supplement to add in. And again, you guys know, I'm not trying to promote, I'm definitely not going to tell you about a brand. There's a lot of brands that are out there, but I think it's super interesting to think about the ramifications that we could have on the total health of the body for like 60, 70 cents a day. And it, quite frankly, irks me a little bit that general medicine doesn't talk about it. From that article, I found another article. This one hasn't been published yet. It's only on PLOS One, Public Library of Science. But you know, it's from 2016. Boron induces lymphocyte proliferation, modulates priming effect in lipopolysaccharides and macrophages. What this is saying, again, is that it reduces all known inflammatory biomarkers. So again, including cancer biomarkers, very cool stuff. And then last but not least, I think this is the one, I thought this was the most interesting. Boron-containing compounds are going to be used in the development of therapeutic tools to modulate the immune system, right? I want us to think about what they're saying here. They're actually suggesting, maybe in a good way, why don't we take boron-containing compounds? Let's take boron, that we know helps in reducing inflammation, modulating the inflammatory response, modulating the immune system, lowering autoimmunities, decreasing, this, increasing this, all this great stuff. Why don't we take plain old boron that costs nothing? Most expensive on the market is $1.08 a day, right? $30 a month. And why don't we add that to biologic medicines like Humira, right? I mean, think about what they're saying. Humira, they're only going to guarantee that Humira is going to help those things out, right? If that makes any sense, which is good. It helps with the research saying, look what Humira does. Humira has, we don't have to say what's in it. It's a patentable combination of chemicals. One of those is boron-containing compounds. It does all this great stuff to the body, so we know that it works. So does boron on its own. Yeah, unfortunately, 12.7% of the people that take it end up with life-threatening cancers or infections. Many of those people die from Humira because of the side effects, right? But look at all the things that we're doing to help. Don't you kind of wonder if the way the drug works is because it contains boron? Wouldn't it be interesting to take Humira and put some people on Humira with the boron-containing compounds and then a fake one that's just boron? Wouldn't that be genius to look at? Nobody's looked at that. I wonder why no one's looked at that. Someone's looked at it, guys. Nobody's published that yet, right? Who's looked at it? The Humira manufacturers have looked at it. They're not going to publish information saying that you can take a 60-cent, amount of boron in your body every day and forego their $1,500 a week treatment, $6,000 a month versus $15 to $30 a month. Listen, guys, there's no money in getting people healthy. I'm the first to tell you. But nonetheless, I want you guys to know that I'm highly leaning into boron. I have my first human studies being tried out right now. My coach has already typed out a protocol and an algorithm for this, for the way that we looked. We've already referenced a lot of articles. This is what we're going to do. We're going to take those people, or people that want to know right away, we're going to run SHBG on them. If we see this pattern, high SHBG, high inflammatory markers, low vitamin D, low anabolic constructive hormones that are going to make energy and burn body fat for fuel. If I see that pattern, I am salivating to put them on 10 to 20 milligrams of boron and see what happens. Not only what happens with their symptoms, we're already good at getting symptoms down. As my private clients know, my goal is to reduce chronic symptoms. I don't care if they've been chronic for a few months or a few decades. I want them reduced by 80% or more in 6 to 12 months. That's my goal with every single client. And we get that with almost every client. So again, 6 to 12 months, reduce their symptoms by 80%, not by medicating their symptoms, but by removing the bad stuff, right? Getting the bad stuff out of the body, putting the good stuff back in the body, giving the body time to restore, giving your body time to rebalance itself, not only the organ system restoring and reactivating, but really rebalancing the chemistry, right? And taking over control so that we can have rejuvenation. That's the Epic 5 plan, guys. Remove, replenish, restore, rebalance, and rejuvenate, right? That's what we want. And this is just part of that. I'm going to start running boron levels on some folks. If I can get it cheaply, I'm going to talk to LabCorp and see if I can have them run boron, for dollars instead of hundreds of dollars. And they almost always will do that for me because they know I'm always researching. So I'm going to get some baselines. I'm going to put people on 10, 20 milligrams of boron. I'm going to look at their symptoms and see if we can accelerate their symptom reduction. We track that every month or week with my clients, as my private clients know, objectively with numbers. And then I'm going to run 3-month labs and see what happens with those other biomarkers that we talked about, the biomarkers of not only boron, but inflammation and SHBG and hormones and this and that. I'm going to see what we can do. We're already good at what we do. I would say that we're great at what we do. We get better outcomes. Again, I'm proud to say this. We get better outcomes than any other clinic that I know of in the entire world. And I mean that. We have objective, black and white, quantifiable data over 10, 15 years at this point, showing that what we do works and that we have the best outcomes compared to anybody, any hospital, any private clinic, any other private doctor, anywhere in the world. And I'm proud of that. And I can't believe that we created it right here at our home base in Iowa, which is pretty cool. Guys, this is the way we create our protocols. We find something in the literature that seems to help our toughest clients, because the easy clients, guys, we've already got it figured out, right? So we're great at what we do. But I want to help the toughest clients now. I want to take the toughest clients on the planet and figure it out, guys. And I think that we just notched away at something here. So I hope that was helpful today. Guys, we're going to be doing this every single week. Every single week, what we're going to be doing is covering something like this, letting you kind of know the background of the way board certified functional medicine doctor thinks through very difficult cases and medical detective work. I just want to share those pieces with you. I want to remind you that while Epic and myself, we're board certified in functional medicine, and we're allowed to say that, the majority of people claiming to do functional medicine are not actually board certified in functional medicine. So please be careful who you work with if you want more information on functional medicine and the miracles that we see every single day, and the 1,307 doctors that are board certified worldwide. Go to ifm.org or functionalmedicine.org, and you're going to find the Institute for Functional Medicine. It's the only board that's out there. And again, you'll be able to find us that are board certified with the initials IFMCP after our names. If this podcast motivated you, if you learned something, if you think that this can help others, then by all means, please do share the podcast. If you're watching this on YouTube, please take a minute and subscribe to our channel. We have one of these loading up every single week, in addition to other webinar recordings and other tips that we load onto that channel. So I'm excited. That channel is actually our 2021 project, but we've already got it going in 2020, and we're going to hopefully have it up and running as a full legit channel by 2021. So please be sure to subscribe, share this with your friends. If you haven't joined our Epic 5 Plan community on Facebook, it is a private, free community on Facebook where we dig into the Epic 5 Plan as far as, again, removing toxins, replenishing the essential nutrients that we need, restoring function, rebalancing the body, and rejuvenating the entire system. Make sure to join the Epic 5 Plan community, and you'll get some great valuable tips there every single day. And also, I'm doing an hour of coaching in that group for free every single week on Thursdays at 1 p.m. Central. So lots going on the Epic scene, on the Dr. B scene. Thanks for joining me this week. I'll see you back next week, same time, same channel. And until then, stay safe, stay healthy, and stay happy. Take care, everyone.